I expect to see maybe a quarterback transfer, but maybe not because of that spring game. I don't know if you caught Oregon's spring game.
I did not.
So in Oregon's spring game, all of the quarterbacks, none of them looked like they were a step above any of the others. You could have had your favorite. For instance, I really liked Robby Ashford. Big piece of news that came out an hour ago. Robby Ashford is not playing baseball anymore. He's focusing solely on the quarterback position. So, and he was a projected MLB draft pick. He was playing really well for Oregon out of right field. He's done playing baseball. He's focusing solely on quarterback for the University of Oregon. And a lot of people really liked how he played on that spring game, including myself. Like after that spring game, I was sold. I want him starting. He reminds me of Vernon Adams Jr., if you remember from the 2015 season.
Absolutely.
If Vernon Adams was on that last year's Oregon team, there's no chance we lose a game. There's no chance on earth. But Vernon Adams took a bunch of guys who, respect to them, a lot of them stuck around and helped bring us back to where we were. But almost, I would guess maybe 3 of them guys are on an NFL roster. Maybe another 2 or 3 on a CFL roster, and the rest of them aren't playing football anymore. One of the only ones playing football still is going to be Vernon Adams out in Canada because he's too short, and Royce Freeman out in Denver being the backup to Phillip Lindsay. So that team had nothing on it, and when he played, it looked like they were a playoff team. I think Robby Ashford could have that same effect. He comes off as a gamer to me. And I do expect one of the quarterbacks to transfer, not this offseason, but next. And I'm just hoping it's not Ashford. Ashford, it looks like a monster. We're bringing in more quarterbacks, though, so it's going to obviously affect attrition. We just took a walk-on out of Texas, which I'm assuming is because of expected attrition. I'm assuming they expect somebody to transfer. Otherwise, you don't take a preferred walk-on from 5 states away. That's at least, 800 miles away, Texas to Oregon. So there's got to be something to that because they were pushing for him. He had PWOs for other schools. He had scholarships to D1 schools, and he came to walk on here. So that leads me to believe that someone's going somewhere. I don't know who, but my gut feeling is somebody's going somewhere. That could also affect the 2022 class as well, though. We could take maybe an extra quarterback on top of Bailey out of Alabama. There's a lot that's going to play out after this month of June, and what we see right now could be completely different to what happens.
Let's stay on that topic before I'm get you back on the recruiting trail and hit you up with more commits. How secure is Anthony Brown's job? Is it his job? Is there going to be a legitimate battle in August?
What I hope and what I think is the answer are 2 different things. Because from what we saw in the spring game, there is 0 reason. Now, even if he ends up being the starter, he ends up being the best out of a competition. But what we saw from that spring game gives me 0 reason for him to get every single rep with the ones. There's from what we saw from Jay Butterfield, he was making great deep throws. What we saw from Robby Ashford moving in the pocket like he's been playing for 12 years. Like what we saw from the other guys and what we saw from Anthony Brown. Anthony Brown missed a few deep shots. He had a few drops by Micah Pittman. Otherwise, he had a fairly decent spring game. But what we saw wasn't enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, it makes sense why none of these 5- and 4-star quarterbacks got any reps with the ones. So I would hope that there would be a competition going into summer. I would hope to see Jay Butterfield and Robby Ashford get a few more reps. Ty Thompson might be a year away. He played against weak competition in high school, which everyone understood. He looked like he had a few things he needed to work through. So I would like to see him get another year under his belt working under these 3 guys. But I really hope we get to see Ashford and Butterfield take a few reps. But I don't think there's going to be a competition. I think the staff's just they're loyal to a fault. Same thing with Tyler Shuck last year. Tyler Shuck would play bad. They kept him in. Tyler Shuck would keep playing bad. They would keep him in. Anthony Brown got a few drives and a few plays, but they're loyal to their players, which can help and hurt you. You got to be able to adjust if you need a new spark. Alabama a few years ago took out Jalen Hurts, put in Tua Tagovailoa, and won a national championship. You got to be loyal to the players, obviously. You got to do right by your players, but you can't do it to the detriment of your team.
Yeah, he's also a known factor. So even though he's not a dynamic player, they know what they're getting. He's put in a full season at Boston College. more than a full season there and almost a full season as a starter there. So the known commodity, and coaches like to know what they're getting.
So that's going for like I feel like with a top, I think we're what, 10 roster, a top 10 roster on the 247 talent composite. You don't want to. I feel like you don't want to go for who's got the highest floor. I feel like if you have one of those 10 rosters, you could compete for a championship as long as your quarterback is right. Like there's 4 teams in a playoff. Top 10 rosters should have a chance to compete. If you're going to go for the highest floor, you're pretty much taking yourself out of that. Because if their ceiling is low, you need somebody who's going to win you a game. If you take a Anthony Brown type, which from what he's been, could prove everybody wrong. He could prove myself wrong. If you take a type like that, like a game manager type who isn't going to put a team on his back but isn't going to make the mistakes at the same time, he might not win you a game over a Clemson and Alabama, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. He might not be the reason you lose it, but he's not going to carry you to that win. He's not going to be the Marcus Mariota. He's not going to be the Tua Tagovailoa. He's not going to be the Baker Mayfield almost pushing Oklahoma over Georgia. So I feel like if you have a top roster, you want to go for the guy who can compete at his best. If you think at his best, can this guy win a playoff game? If the answer is no, then I don't know why he's starting for you.